I get this question all the time, and I don't know that I've ever really covered it in the depth and clarity that it deserves. Now, as everyone knows, I'm a secular conservative, and that's a conservative without all the religious baggage that plagues a lot of the right wing. And as should be no surprise at all, I'm not a big fan of American modern liberalism or the liberalism that infests a lot of Europe. But I still get a lot of people who complain, well, I'm liberal and that's not what I believe. Well, okay, if that's not what you believe, then clearly I'm not talking to you, and you should stop reacting to labels and only worry about positions you actually hold. But I'm going to try to actually address what I mean by liberal and why I go after modern liberalism. First, I want to define my terms. Now, I did a video not too long ago where they gave what I thought was a pretty good definition of liberalism, and it's reasonably accurate to what I'm generally addressing when I refer to liberalism in my videos. So, I'm going to go grab that definition because I think it's workable. And it said that liberals generally believe in government action to achieve equal opportunity and equality for all, and that it's the duty of the government to reduce community issues and protect civil liberties and individual and human rights. Also, they believe the role of government should be to guarantee that no one is in need. So if that's not what you mean when you refer to yourself as a liberal, then clearly it makes no sense at all to take offense at my criticism. Yes, I know there are a lot of people who call themselves classical liberals, but I honestly can't consider those people to be liberal at all these days. I think they're more correctly located in either the conservative or libertarian camp, and for those who are very economically liberal, for instance, yeah, you deserve all the derision I give because economic liberalism is a massive problem, and it's at least as bad as social liberalism that gets most of my ire. So nothing I'm going to say is aimed at any particular individual, and if you have these views, then I suggest you really evaluate whether your views are rational or realistic, or if they're just emotional. Because honestly, I think that the biggest problem out there today is an over-reliance on emotion. That goes for both the religious right and for the far regressive left. These are people who aren't thinking rationally, they're reacting emotionally. They don't care how things work, they care how things make them feel. And I'm sorry if it hurts your precious little fifis, but that's a problem. And it's a problem because your feelings, unbounded by logic and rationality, get in the way of being able to evaluate the world in an intellectual and fact-based manner. Unfortunately, historically, emotions cause a lot more problems than they solve. Now, that's not saying that emotions don't have a time and a place, but that place is not every place, and that time is not all the time. I think people who are constantly overly emotional at everything have some serious psychological problems and are responsible for the vast majority of problems that the world not only faces today, but has faced historically. If you can't keep your emotional outbursts and your reactions under control, then I've simply got no respect for you whatsoever. And you probably don't care, but if you didn't have any interest in what I thought, you wouldn't be watching this video, would you? So anyhow, the vast majority of the people who fall under the definition I gave earlier do have a problem controlling their emotions. They only care about their feelings, how situations make them feel, whether the world as it currently stands gives them a warm fuzzy all the time. And on the social side, these people are generally called social justice warriors, and on the fiscal side, they're generally known as socialists or communists. These people, and I can only speak in generalities of course, but mostly they want people to come first without ever bothering to think that nothing in life is free and that people actually have to earn their own way with very, very few exceptions. And what are those exceptions? Well, People who are physically or mentally incapable of making it on their own. Now, I don't buy into the everything is sexist, everything is racist, everything is homophobic bullcrap that the far left spews. Because, again, that's just being emotional for the sake of being emotional. It's buying into a vast conspiracy theory that's not evident in reality, because the fact that some people fail just makes them feel bad. And guess what? Some people will fail. But for the people who do, almost without exception, their own damn fault. And you can call me heartless if you want. I really don't care. I'd much rather be called heartless than brainless, which is exactly what the overly emotional are. But there are very few real-world problems that will ever be solved by holding hands and singing Kumbaya. In fact, I can't think of any real-world problems that would be solved by holding hands and singing Kumbaya. That's just not how the real world works, regardless of how these overly emotional people want to think it does. Unfortunately, we need to hold people accountable. We need to expect personal and fiscal responsibility as the norm. If there's ever an example of someone who's done absolutely everything right and still fails, we can address that on a case-by-case basis, but I don't think that's going to happen very often. Now, I've got no problem with a basic social safety net that catches you when you fall and helps you get back on your feet. But on the far left, that's not what they want. They want cradle-to-grave care for almost everyone. Almost? Well, yeah, they just happen to hate straight white men, and that's a problem. For all their cries about racism and sexism, the left tends to be some of the most racist and sexist people out there. As far as I'm concerned, if you care at all about race or gender or sexual orientation, if it even comes up in an intellectual conversation, then you're a racist and a sexist. You are the bigot, not the person that you're probably screeching about. And I've got no time at all for bigots. I just don't. I mean, if you can produce objectively demonstrable evidence that shows a specific racist undertone in society, by all means bring it up. But if you can't, if all you can do is throw around baseless accusations and empty claims and logical fallacies to support your overly emotional wishful thinking, you're just wasting everyone's time. But the far left has a lot of psychological and emotional problems, as I said. I mean, not only are they claiming that there are more than two genders, something that's entirely scientifically unjustified, now I'm seeing people claim that they can be transracial. I mean, that's a white person who thinks that they were born in the wrong race. These people are nuts. Seriously. They're nuts. How long before they start pushing, Transspeciesism and go full furry? But that's what happens when you adopt this whole postmodernist, nonsensical worldview that's very prevalent on the left, where reality doesn't matter. It's all what you want and how you feel that makes a difference. These people are morons. And then we get to the financial side, and liberalism is a disaster. And here's a little newsflash for you. You can't spend more money than you have, just like you can't eat more food than you've got. Reality is inherently limited. Resources are inherently limited. If you want X, you've got to be willing to give up Y. Like it or not, you can't have it all, and nobody has to give it to you. Now, this is a problem with both the modern left and the modern right, and I've gone on record saying that there are no conservative political parties anymore because everyone wants to just buy votes by borrowing money from China. Screw living within our means. And that's why the average American is more than $55,000 in non-mortgage debt today. Because they don't know how to live within their means. They want it all, but they've got no way to pay for it and no self-control to work toward a goal. It's all gimme, gimme, gimme. But that's what happens when you have a consumerist society without a conservative background. Conservatism inherently recognizes that the books need to be balanced, that you need to work hard and earn the things that you want, and if you don't put in the work, you should not get the rewards. And this is the fiscal failure of liberalism. Yes, in the extreme, that means the poor starve. And I don't necessarily advocate the extreme form, but even with all of the social safety nets we offer, even with all the free services that we offer, the poor remain poor, mostly because they can be. They don't take advantage of the opportunities that are not only handed to them, but in some cases literally forced on them. They have to go to school, but you can't force them to actually learn anything. We provide laws and a social framework for success, but they don't have to actually pay any attention. They make all the wrong decisions, they go down all the wrong paths, and when their lives turn out to be crap, they stick their hand out for more because somehow we owe them. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. It's no wonder that the country is in such dire straits. We've got no expectations that people will just be decent people, that people will make the right decisions and follow the right paths and achieve at least moderate success. Because there's no real consequence to failing. If you fail, even if you fail spectacularly, society will just pick you up, pat you on the head, and stuff a government check in your pocket. And it will do it over and over and over again. You never have to succeed. You never even have to try, and you still do better than if you worked your fingers to the bone in a third world country. Because we figure we deserve it. The idea that we should have to earn it never even enters most people's heads. But really, if you don't earn it, why should you have it? And you can't earn it by getting out of bed in the morning. You have to earn it through hard work, making the right decisions, growing as a person, being a productive member of society, living within society's laws, and generally not being a douchebag. And if you're not willing to do that, sorry, I don't feel sorry for you. I just don't. You had the opportunity, and you blew it of your own accord. Why should society support you when you're not willing to uphold your end of the bargain? I just don't get it. So anyhow, that's my reasoning for why I oppose liberalism, especially as you go farther and farther to the political left. And I don't care how anyone feels. I care how they perform. I care how hard they work. I care what decisions they make. I care if they earn their own way. And if you don't want to, then what good do you do for society? You're just dead weight. Like it or not, we could all do with a lot less of that. So anyway, post your comment in the comments, and let's talk.
Everything changes.